Hi and welcome to Wristtraining. In between the exercises I'm going to read and try to learn something about membrane transport proteins, and participating in the exercises that you're on the screen. Let's start with the first exercise. We have a comfortable stand position. We're bringing both arms to the side, comfortable beside us, the hands form the fists. Now we're bringing these fists slowly down and again up. If there's at any time pain at the wrists, then stop immediately. We go down and we're going slowly as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. And as soon as we've reached the point which we can reach with a bit of effort, turning around and going into the other direction. And now for a last time. And now to the membrane transport proteins. The membrane transport protein is a membrane protein. So the membrane transport protein is a protein of a type membrane protein. And here's an explanation. The membrane is a layer around of cells to hold the cells together. So cells are in the human body. And these cells need a layer. And this layer is called membrane. So they are the cells, and if they don't diffuse, there's a layer around them, and this layer is called membrane. Membrane proteins are proteins who are as integral proteins permanently or as peripheral membrane proteins temporarily part of the membrane around a cell. So there are proteins inside of this membrane, and there are integral proteins, and the integral proteins are permanently there. They are integral, they are permanent, and there are the peripheral proteins. They are only temporarily there. There are two types of permanently integral proteins: the transmembrane, which is spanning from one side across and to the other side over to the membrane layer of cells, and the integral monotopic, which might be like transmembrane proteins permanently at the cells, don't span through the membrane layer. So there are two types of the integral membrane proteins. The integrals are one which are permanent there, and the transmembrane, they are going completely through the layer from one side to the other. And then there are the integral monotopic, and they are only on one or the other side, they don't span through. And the next exercise, a moment ago, that was the spotlight, and now we have a flashlight. So again, both hands and fists on the outside, and we're turning these fists in and again out. Slowly to the outside, as far as we can bring them there. And then we're going back to the inside as far as we are able to go. Now for the last time. Inside. So membranes are a lot of cells to keep the cells together as a layer. And there are integral membrane proteins, they are permanently there. And there are the transmembrane, through the membrane, and the integral monotopic, they are only on one on these surfaces. On this they are monotopic. And then there are the peripheral membrane proteins, and the peripheral membrane proteins, they are only temporarily there. The integral are permanently there. Whether they were transmembrane or integral monotopic. The membrane transport protein is involved by the transport of ions, molecules, and macromolecules from the membrane layer around the cells. So, and this membrane transport protein has an involvement in the transportation of ions, molecules, and macromolecules through the layer. Or protein transport membrane. Membrane transport protein. Membrane transport protein. Membrane transport protein. Next exercise, it is the magician. So we have both hands again comfortable at the side, and now the hands are flat and with the palms turned to the ground. And we're bringing these hands turned to the ground. These hands with palms turned to the ground. Slowly to the inside. And again, same rules. Going always carefully as far as we're able to go to one side. And as soon as you reach the point which you are able to go to, a little bit of it, returning around and going into the other direction. And now it's time for the last step. These membrane transport proteins are helping to bring ions molecules or macromolecules through the membrane of cells. The membrane transport proteins help to transport ions molecules and macromolecules through the membrane layer around of cells by facilitated diffusion, reverse diffusion, active transport, and osmosis. So there seem to be 4 methods used by these membrane transport proteins to bring ions molecules and macromolecules. Macromolecules to bring ions molecules and macromolecules through the layer around of cells. And these 4 methods listed here are the facilitated diffusion, the reverse diffusion, the active transport, and the osmosis. The next exercise, it's the pancake flipper. So we're having again comfortable with both hands, with flat hands turned to the ground next to us, and now we're turning these flat hands up to the sky. And doing that slowly in one continuous movement. We're turning slowly the hands up to the sky as far as we're able to, a bit of effort. When we're changing direction of the movement, and we're turning them again down. And again down, and now the last time. 4 different ways: facilitated diffusion, reverse diffusion, active transport, and osmosis are used by the transport membrane proteins to bring ions molecules and macromolecules through the membrane around of cells. This is just repeated. There are 2 types of membrane transport proteins, although something new, 2 types of them, which help through facilitated diffusion, reverse diffusion, active transport, and osmosis to transport ions molecules and macromolecules through the membrane layer of cells. And these 2 types are carrier and channel. There are 2 types of them, carrier and channel. The next exercise, it is the T-Rex in the morning. So both hands out. Now we're bringing these hands down. And again up. And for a last time. And now where the T-Rex was in the morning, the T-Rex is now in the gym. And we're taking a tennis ball. If you don't have a tennis ball, just do it over. And I'm taking the tennis ball like this, with 4 hot fingers. And it's comfortable beside me, from the knuckles to the elbow. Here's a straight line. And now I'm pressing with moderate force. I'm not overdoing it. And releasing again. And we are pressing again. And we release. And we are pressing for last time. And now we're switching. And we're pressing. And release. And we are pressing. And release. Now for the last time. We are pressing. And release. And that was the T-Rex in gym. 2 types of it, carrier and channel. Carrier and channel of these membrane transport proteins, which help through the 4 methods: facilitated diffusion, reverse diffusion, active transport, and osmosis, to bring ions molecules and macromolecules through the membrane around our cells. And the next exercise is cautious Big Bang. So we're having the finger tips of one hand on top of the fingernails, one hand on top of the fingernails of the other hand. Now we are opening, and the hand on top tries to make it move a little bit harder. It presses against this opening movement. Now we're closing again, and that hand is still pressing. That hand is adding a bit of brakes. And again, we are opening, and we are closing. And it's time to switch. Finger tips on top of the fingernails, and we are opening, and that hand is trying to open faster, and now we're closing, and that hand is resisting against closing sometimes. And now for the last time. And that was the cautious Big Bang. Now to the quadrangular castle, I take both hands out of the fists, and return these fists towards each other. And now up, and to the side, and down, and again to the inside, and now the whole thing backwards, going down, to the sides, and up, and the last position to the inside. Last exercise, it is the crab, anxious to have fever. So we're having the arm beside us, comfortable, the hand from two fists. We're bringing this fist now down. We're pressing carefully and with only moderate force, the maximum, against the index finger. And there should be no pain. Definitely no pain. Not even great effort. And from the top. And from the side. And now from the bottom against the third finger. And on the other side. Arm comfortable at the side, hand from the fist, hand downwards, and we're pressing with careful, moderate force against it. And from the outside. And from the top against the first finger. And from the bottom against the third finger. Now just a little relaxation exercise for the extensor digitorum muscle. And that muscle lies here in the middle of the lower arm. We're going over that place with moderate pressure a couple of times. And last time. And on the outside. Go with moderate force only over it. And that was the wrist training. And now let's recapitulate what we had about the membrane transport proteins. So there is a cell, and the cell has a layer around it, and that layer is called membrane. And through this membrane, there are transmembrane proteins. And there are the two types of proteins. There are membrane proteins. The integral membrane proteins, one type of them is the transmembrane proteins going through the layer, and the monotopic, the integral monotopic proteins, they're only on one side. And the peripheral membrane proteins, they are only for a temporary time at a part of the layer of the membrane. And through the four methods of facilitated diffusion, reverse diffusion, active transport, and osmosis, the transport membrane proteins, membrane transport. The membrane transport proteins are helping to bring ions, molecules, and macromolecules through the layer. So the four methods are facilitated diffusion, reverse diffusion, active transport, and osmosis to bring ions, molecules, and macromolecules through the membrane of cells. I thank you very much, and until next time.